You have dog crap in your system.
This is the Baseball Hour with Tony Maz.
They did nothing this offseason.
Brought to you by Bigelow Tea, Corona, Gravely Zero Turn Lawnmowers, Jackson Lumber, Team Impact, Blue Moon Belgian White, and FindMassMoney.gov. On 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Milliken is back. Back from Texas.
McCarthy.
I missed you too, Milliken. You doing okay? You hanging in there?
No, I'm actually deathly ill. I don't know what happened to me when I got to Texas, but it was like, I leave the state of Massachusetts and everything goes wrong, so I'm battling a little bit. I apologize if I sound sick, but listen, the Sox are hot right now, so that means I got to be here.
I told Milliken he should go home. I walked in today and I was like, Milliken, like, you good? And like, I've got Majori, I've got Kevin. Like, don't feel like you need to be a hero tonight. Jesus, you are fighting through it.
Did I hesitate though, McCarthy? Did it even look like for a second I thought about going home?
No, not for a chance. You do like a little COVID swab there? You good?
I'm good? Clean. I'm good.
He's clean.
He says he's clean.
Majori doesn't trust me one bit. I promise.
I've done a pretty extensive wipe down yesterday.
Should anybody trust Milliken? Let's be honest. No. Milliken, should we trust the Red Sox? It's the baseball hour. It's the round table. We got Milliken, Stu's here, Majori's here, McCarthy. Room for you. 617-779-0985. Beaton, Charlie, we got him back there. It's a full house on a Friday night. Should we trust the Red Sox when they say they're going to add? Yes or no?
Yeah, I think so. Because I think when you talk about what the last couple of years have been under Chaim Bloom, where they stood, and it goes back to the conversation we had before I left for Texas of what the playoff odds were the last couple of years ago. And when you're talking 24% and 24.6% now, and we said, can they sustain those playoff odds? They were around 44%, I believe, the last time we talked. Fangraphs now sits at 53%. You want to get more positive? Baseball Reference, 63.1%. We are in a different stratosphere than we were even 2 weeks ago when we spoke. We are in a completely different stratosphere than where we were the last 2 years at the deadline. And I look at Craig Breslo's comments, and do I think at the end of the day, I don't believe in the theory that they, were hoping the Red Sox were going to lose, but I think their expectation throughout most of the year, just about like everybody else who looked at the Red Sox entering the year was, yeah, more likely than not, we're going to sell. Well, like Breslo said, they put themselves in a position that everybody has to take them seriously. They need to look for ways to improve the club. I think it's just about how dramatic that improvement's going to actually be, and I think that's where you look at the rest of the American League. I think you can make an argument that they should really make a significant investment. Am I saying going over the luxury tax? No, but when you have $12.75 million before that first threshold, I think you should be using every bit you can to compete this year.
How far away are they from being a World Series contender? Like, because you were just kind of getting into it. You said, I don't know, you look at the rest of the American League. What to me that implies, Milliken, is you don't think the competition in the American League is all that strong.
No, I really don't. The only team I kind of sit back and I shudder a bit with is the Orioles. And I think the Orioles, it'll depend if they go out and actually get the number 3 starter they need. They could do even more with where their farm system's at, but they're hesitant to trade anyone that's in their top 5 because, they have Corbin Burns and Grayson Rodriguez, but Kyle Bradish going down was a major blow. Outside of them, who am I terrified of? The Guardians have been great this year, right? They're 25th in starter ERA. They need to go get someone for that rotation. 15-15 over their last 30 games. They're kind of plateauing a little bit right now. And yes, they got the best bullpen in baseball. They have a very good lineup, but that's not a team I look at and say you can't compete with. The Mariners rotation, excellent. We all know that. 1 through 5, they're one of the worst offenses in baseball. 27th in runs scored, 28th in OPS. They need to add multiple bats if they want to compete. And yeah, the Astros, they've had a great surge really around the same time as the Red Sox. That rotation, this isn't the Astros we remember that was going, to the ALCS every single year. Justin Verlander is a major question mark at this point, and I hate to tell you, he's not prime Justin Verlander anymore. He's not the guy who was talking about being Tom Brady, being that baseball version of that. No, he's dealing with neck discomfort, and he just hasn't looked like himself in well over a year. Ronel Blanco, yeah, it's been a great story. His ERA's in the low 2s. The biggest difference between ERA and FIP in baseball, that's what I call the luckiest pitcher in baseball. Luis Garcia, who they're depending on, had a small setback coming back from Tommy John recently. Lance McCullers, a guy we talked about a few weeks ago, just had another setback. None of these teams are sitting there and seem like this ridiculous threat. The Twins are good, but I consider them in the same tier as you, and they're hoping Royce Lewis can stay healthy. Guess what Royce Lewis has never done before? He's never stayed healthy. So why can't you be in this conversation? And, is there one team I did forget? It is. The Yankees. What did Luis Severino say? They have 2 good hitters. I think that's a pretty good way to kind of depict where the Yankees are at right now. But if you want to be negative, who has the hardest remaining schedule in baseball right now? It's the Boston Red Sox.
Will they use that as an excuse?
They shouldn't.
So, here's the thing. Do they really believe in this team? Or are they going to look, and Milliken, I know you're tied in. I know you hear things. Do they really believe in this team? Or are they going to look at that strength of schedule and say, well, they have a 5-14 strength of schedule remaining, which is the toughest in baseball? Or are they going to do what you and I just did and say, hey, maybe the American League isn't all that good. Where did they stand?
It's a fair question, and I'm not going to act like I know the answer, and I think this is where we're going to really see what Craig Breslo's made out of. Really, where does he kind of stand on this? Is he more hesitant because it's his first year, and he knows, hey, listen, as long as we're competitive this year, people are going to be happy. I'm not looking to shoot for the moon. Or does he say, man, I want to strike while the iron's hot. I know it's my first year, but this feels like a special team. I think if they maintain the way they've played over the next 2 weeks, yeah, they're going to make a legit investment, and there's plenty of options, whether you want your rentals, whether you want your multi-year guys. Are there a lot of pathways where I would trade the top three or the big three? I think there's only one, in my opinion, and I don't think they're going to go down that route, but you could still do plenty to help this team. It's Skubal. He's the only one I would really do it for.
So you explain to me, Skubal, if you weren't watching the All-Star game, it's a lefty from the Tigers.
Yep, lefty from the Tigers. He has been, arguably the best pitcher in baseball this year. You want to kind of talk about where he's at team control-wise. He's dealt with his own injuries. He's not perfect by any means. He's had some major surgeries, but he is under team control until 2027, someone who could anchor this rotation alongside Tanner Houck. And at that point, you're probably talking at least one of the big three, maybe two. And he doesn't have the exact same innings concerns. We've talked to Crochet, who is, going well beyond anything he did last year. Skubal only threw 80 innings last year, though, so he's going to probably come close to doubling it. Still, I would say if you're looking for that middle ground of taking that risk, Skubal's the guy I would jump for.
So Milliken and I are going to talk about who might be available. There is some reporting coming out today on a couple of pitchers that really could interest the Red Sox. We'll get into that. Room for you on the phone lines at 617-779-0985. But that really is the question, right, Milliken? I mean, before we get into who the Red Sox could trade for, and I want to do some of that on the Baseball Hour tonight, I want to start really getting into the nitty-gritty of this trading deadline, because I don't think, listen, we shouldn't just come in here every night and say they should trade, they should add. No, start talking about what they can do here. And now the trading deadline is about to pick up. You're back from the All-Star break. The draft is in the rearview mirror. Now you're going to really start to get the reporting on who could be available, who they could go get. But we do need to answer the question as to whether or not they will do it and how aggressive they will be in doing it. I think based on what you heard from Craig Breslo this week, they will add. The question is, how big will they add? I want to play you some Craig Breslo. Does this sound like somebody who is actually going to be willing to add? Or does it sound like somebody who won't be willing to add? Jimmy, if we could, Breslo 2 from earlier in the week.
It's a good reminder not to get so overly caught up in playoff probabilities day to day, because with every game that you play or every game that someone that you might be chasing or who's chasing you is, plays, those fluctuate. And I think, you have to zoom out a bit and kind of try to see the big picture. And, when your team goes on a run, wins 8 games in a row, that has to matter. That has to be meaningful. Again, we're here to try to win as many big league games as we possibly can. Building out a robust, healthy farm system is one path toward sustainability, and we have to be mindful of that. But at the end of the day, we're not here to win farm system rankings. We're here to win big league games.
Boy, that's an assault on you, Milliken. Farm system rankings, screw those. Playoff probability, the data, no, take that and shove that right up your rear. That's Dombrowski-esque. That was Craig Breslo speaking. I was borderline shocked by that, and that made me reevaluate Craig Breslo a little bit this week.
I think it's important, though, while we know he values these different things, they are not the end of the world. You need to show you have a pulse on what a team is, and that's what you are looking for, the difference between Chaim Bloom and really what Craig Breslo is doing. Breslo is a former player. Do you understand when a team's kind of rising, and it's that real kind of rising where Alex Cora will tell you, I don't care what people say about the Red Sox right now. Our athleticism, we won't go into these 5-6 game losing streaks. We don't think we can fall into those same patterns. If you can recognize those kind of things that go beyond the probability or whatever it may be, then you can make some real decisions there. And I think that's why what you should probably expect with this deadline is something similar to 2021, where they're going to say, hey, no, this is a real first year where seemingly a window is opening up for us. Are we going to completely empty our pockets and go nuts here? No. But can we kind of push this as far as long as we can and give this team a real shot? I think so, because rather quickly, you are looking a lot closer to that 2021 team than, anything that happened in 2022 and 2023. And the best part is, it feels like even your pitching at this point has a chance to be as stable as it was in that 2021 year.
Top 3 needs, and it can be 2 pitchers, whatever it is. If they're getting 3 guys, which is what they did in 2021, they got 2 relievers and Kyle Schwarber, who once again, Milliken, I will remind you, cannot play first base and was not a first baseman.
He did it.
He technically did it. Yes, they employed him there. Top 3 needs. What do they need?
Yeah, first off, I think a mid-rotation starter, someone who can eat innings, someone you don't have to worry about penciling in there every 5 days, especially as Tanner Houck and Cutter Crawford see those inning limits really start to stack up. That also allows you to use Cooper Criswell, in different spots. Same for Josh Winkowski. If you want to say, hey, we're giving everybody an extra day, but you feel confident in him, like, even a Jake Peavy back in 2013. My number 2 need, you need a right-handed bat. Someone I think initially who might make a lot of sense as a platoon partner for Dom Smith, and then someone who might make sense once Tristan Casas comes back. If, which I think is a fair conversation because he's one small setback away. But someone you could platoon with Masataka Yoshida as well, who is well below 200 against lefties this year. And I think that is a real thing they kind of have to worry about. Number 3, and I'm not going to say this is a major one, but this is one that could grow really telling in the next couple weeks. Chris Martin's elbow, barking again. Justin Slayton. Woof, woof, woof. We're barking everywhere. But yeah, maybe a bullpen arm. And yes, I know Liam Hendricks is coming, but someone else you can kind of use there in a flexible multi-inning role. Because if you lose both of those guys rather quickly, that bullpen need will be right up there with the first 2.
All right, 617-779-0985. Milliken alongside. Stu had a great opening take on Felger and Maz that we need to get to a little bit later on in the program. Talk about this Dodger series coming up. But let's go to Joe in Framingham up first on the Baseball Hour. Hi, Joe.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Look, Tyler, I hope this doesn't get me suspended, but when Vaughn Grissom comes back and, the Red Sox are where they are right now, I kind of hate swapping David Hamilton out. Like, if you're kind of serious for competing, I feel like David Hamilton gives you a much better shot than Vaughn Grissom does in 2024.
And Joe, I got to let you go on that. Is anybody really thinking about Vaughn Grissom at this point?
No, I don't really think they are. And, I know his quote about a week ago kind of really was awkward for some people. I didn't hate it as much as others of him saying, hey, if you don't like me, well, screw you, basically. But I think with the Red Sox, they still haven't fully got his rehab assignment going. They are going to take him very slow because those hamstring injuries, they've gone back and forth due to pre-existing injuries that he hadn't properly healed from.
They think he came into camp out of shape.
It seems like there was an issue in the Puerto Rican Winter League where he was down there where he felt like he didn't have the proper stuff to get his body built up, and it all kind of leaked from there.
Okay, but would it be fair to say there's frustration, and I don't know if you would know this, but I'm just saying there seems to be some chatter about the way he showed up to camp, and maybe that's one of the many reasons the Red Sox are slow playing this. Kind of like, yeah, we don't really need you if you're not really totally on board. We need everybody rowing on this thing, and you weren't ready to go. Is that unfair of me to speculate about?
No, I don't think it's overly unfair. I think they were hoping he would come into spring training in this new opportunity and say, hey, I need to make a statement. This is kind of my spot. He didn't come in that kind of shape. So, he was playing catch up really from day one.
All right, let's get into trade deadline targets. Some reporting today, some discussion today about who could be available, ultimately what this needs for the Red Sox, means for the Red Sox. I want to get Milliken's thoughts on those. We'll get into the Dodgers series as well. Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani, Alex Cora in L.A. Lot to get to. Baseball Hour Roundtable. Milliken's here. We got Stu, Majori. It's McCarthy in for Maz.
Stay tuned for more of the baseball.
Worth asking whether you think they're capable of making a really deep run this October. And I'm not convinced they're at that point yet, but they do not have any top 20 prospects who are left-handed starting pitchers. This is an opportunity to get one, to have him under control for 2.5 years. You know, if it costs you Roman Anthony, Christian Campbell, and pick your lottery pick from the Dominican Summer League program, do you do that? I think you have to think long and hard about it. I think that's intriguing. Starting that ace certified number one guy, and again, left-handed to boot, with 3 playoff runs under control. So even if you don't extend them, and you would expect that they would make every effort to do that if they went so far as to give up that kind of package, I wouldn't say that about a lot of guys in the game, but he's one of them I would.
Sean McAdam on his podcast with Chris Cotillo making the argument that the Red Sox should be aggressive and go out and look at guys like Garrett Crochet and Tarek Skobel. Your thoughts, Milliken. Would you be willing to give up Marcelo Mayer or Roman Anthony or Kyle Teal for Skubal or Crochet?
Yes, because you're getting something that your system just simply doesn't have. You, especially high-end pitching like in the upper minors this year. Richard Fitz, it's been a very meh year overall. I don't think anyone ever expected him to be a top-of-the-rotation guy. There's questions whether he's a back-end guy. He's really probably closer to Josh Winkowski. Luis Perales, who was flying up the top 100, great. He blew his elbow out. Who knows if we even see him again before 2026. So how do you find this arm that you can kind of lock in here alongside Tanner Houck while you have him, while you have Cutter Crawford, Brian Bayo to ride this thing out? Those are the two guys. The only thing with Crochet that scares me a little bit here, and it's what it comes to this year. He threw 12 innings last year. He's thrown 107 this year. So how much is he really going to give you when you're probably going to be not only managing his workload, but also Houck, also Crawford, while you're trying to compete for a spot?
Here's what I'd say real quick about Crochet, though.
Go ahead.
What's Roman Anthony going to give you this year? You know, you're also acquiring Garrett Crochet for years to come. Right? So the whole argument, you know, about his innings limit, I hear you on that. It's legitimate. But you're saying, well, you know, you're trading for this guy this year and he might not help you this year because of his innings limit. Yeah, well, Marcelo Mayer isn't going to help you this year either. You know, you are swapping something that you do have for something that you don't. You have 1 million left-handed hitters, and Craig Breslo talked about that. You have 1 million left-handed hitters in this system. Can you trade one of them for a pitcher?
I think that's more than a fair conversation. And, you know, I wrote about it on 98.5thesportshub.com a few months back when I was saying, you know, look at the outfield alone where you have Wilyer Abreu and Jarren Duran. Like, you're going to have some uncomfortable conversations here in due time. I think where I stand on that is, well, hey, you still do got to address your needs for what's going to happen in this season. In a vacuum, if we get to the offseason per se, and Crochet was still sitting there and, you know, we're looking forward and you have those guys, I'd still feel the same way about that convo. But I do want to make sure you give yourself the best opportunity to check off that box of what you do need to compete this year. That's why I wouldn't say no to Crochet, but I would go to a Skubal before that, who, you know, at least last year threw 80 innings. It isn't going to be going, you know, from basically no innings to 150 to 170 and then maybe a playoff run at the same time.
Do you think Craig Breslo would be open to trading one of the big three?
I'm not sure. I really don't know if Craig Breslo has that in him at this point, but it should be a little bit easier for him, right? These aren't his guys, right? Like Chaim Bloom, these were the guys that he had drafted, he had seen kind of develop underneath him. All right, well, Craig, you just went, you got Braden Montgomery, you've added another top prospect to your system here. You've had Christian Campbell, who's exploded onto the scene this year, top 90 prospect in the game. Does that give you a little bit more confidence to do something like that here? Because there truly is only so many spots. So, yes, I think if you're going to go after and get something crazy, it should be a top-of-the-line young starting pitcher because you still are years away, seemingly, from that coming through your system.
Yeah, they did draft 14 pitchers in 20 rounds in the draft this year, which, Milliken, you know, is something I've been pounding the table on for years now. Chaim Bloom hated pitchers, refused to draft them. I've been saying this for years. So Breslo's trying to fix the pitching development. That's going to take a long time, though, because Bloom left him with nothing, which is why at some point you really should think strongly about trading one of your big three for a, you know, legitimate front of the rotation, young, cost-controlled arm. That costs you a hell of a lot, but you need to be willing to give that guy up. Who is that guy for you, though? Of the big three, which one are you trading? Which two are you keeping?
So if I'm looking at the situation right now, I think Roman Anthony, if you were to ask me, and most people still have him as the number one prospect in the system, I think he is the best thing you do have. I think he is the highest ceiling player out of the three. If you're asking me where you have the most depth, it's also the outfield. I think you do have some real questions about the infield and how you're going to handle things moving forward with Marcelo Mayer. Who's going to be your shortstop of the future? Maybe you say, hey, well, we could figure this out. Ceddanne Rafaela is going to be that guy at shortstop.
Why are you paying Trevor Story a not-so-nice $69 million over the next 3 years?
And the value, who knows if he's ever going to even hit at a league average level. It's going to be multiple years. The value's in the glove, right? Like, that's simply what you're betting on at this point.
So you're going to move him to second base where he's not as valuable for you and pay him $69 million over the next 3 years when he can't hit?
Is that how you protect his shoulder? It's a fair question.
You can't protect him from anything because he's just going to break down because that's Trevor Story.
But I've also got Nick York and Vaughn Grissom and Valdez, all who play second base.
David Hamilton.
So we're doing
too.
4-man rotation at second?
Correct. Yeah, no, it's softball. We've got a million middle infielders.
And that's why I like Nick York. I appreciate what he's doing at AAA. Do I buy into it long term? I think he's Christian Arroyo. I think that's really what the kind of player he is. I'd be willing to, mention him in trade talks for whatever you need at this point. I think Craig Breslo has shown Vaughn Grissom was his guy. Same profile. You said at that time, we believe in Grissom more than York. And as crazy as it sounds, even York's numbers coming down. Look at what Grissom did in AAA while younger last year. It's still better than what York's
I don't
doing.
have the answer from you, though. Which of the big three are you trading?
Yeah, so if you're asking me which one I'm probably trading, I'm going to probably lean Marcelo Mayer first right now.
Listen to the pain.
It's hard.
Listen to the pain,
it's hard for me.
in his voice.
He was dying.
I'm grimacing.
He's also sick, but it made him sick to say that.
And I would tell you at this point, I'd probably consider moving Ceddanne Rafaela to shortstop on a regular basis.
He's good there, man.
He is. And I think Jarren Duran, what he's grown to be in center field, I think he's some form of Grady Sizemore. 2011 Jacoby L is very light. If that's how you want to go about it here, then that's probably the best way because I think Roman Anthony is going to be a middle-of-the-order bat for years to come. I think Meyer's a lot closer to maybe above league average bat with solid defense.
So wait a minute. Marcelo Mayer, did you hear that, Jimmy? Marcelo Mayer, who we've been told for years is the second coming. I mean, Christ walking the earth, according to, some Red Sox fans out there. He is, I'm sorry, what again, Tyler Milliken?
He'd be the guy that I'd be willing to move.
No, what's he going to be as a big league player?
I think he's going to be like an above average bat with solid defense at short.
This is why he dropped from 1 to 4 in the draft.
He's an above average bat with fine defense. So what you're saying is he's an everyday shortstop.
He's a bust.
I think he's going to be a better version of Brandon Crawford, which, hey, Brandon Crawford.
Jesus.
That's not an
I didn't
awful
draft
thing.
him to be Brandon Crawford.
Brandon Crawford's a good player, but for years, you've told me Marcelo Mayer, can't trade Marcelo Mayer. And you know what? Milliken, you're not wrong. This is how people, when you really get into the nitty-gritty of it, this is what people think Mayer is. They think he's a good player. They don't think he's a great player.
I think that's
at the big league level.
That's been the case, I think, for some time. I think the Corey Seager comps that once existed when he was first drafted.
He's not Corey Seager.
I don't see it. I don't see it with the walk rate. I don't see it, at least with the approach at the plate. But I still think he's a very valuable player. He is a top 25 prospect in the game, top 10 prospect if you ask Baseball America, for a reason. So there's value to get there. I think Kyle Teal is going to be a franchise catcher. Yep. I like Connor Wong a lot. Maybe you feel more comfortable in that situation. You say, hey, I think Connor Wong can be that guy. I'd tell you I'm a little worried about Connor Wong's defense as time continues to progress.
So at 4 in the draft, they took a 7-8 hitter. Need.
I wouldn't even call him that. I think he could be, closer
to
a
9
6
hitter?
or 5. No, I think he could be a 6 or a 5 hitter. He's an above average bat.
He's the old school 2-hitter. He's a hitter first. And he's a lefty. Before you started putting your best hitter in the 2 spot, he's, Jimmy, what you and I grew up to know as a 2-hitter. Guy who puts his bat on the ball, is a solid player and all that.
I think, if you want to put numbers to it, right, I think he could be a guy who hits, something like 280 with, call it 20 home runs a year and good defense at short. That's still a very good shortstop.
But is his barrel rate good enough where he can put the baseball anywhere he wants on the field?
Yes.
And get the speed guy from first to third or first to home?
I think Marcelo Mayer, I think the hit tool's solid. I really do. It's more of a power thing for me, and I think there's some solid swing and miss that
He has 33 home runs in 3 seasons in the minor leagues.
That's 11 a year.
He's not a power guy. So, to say 20 home run power, by the way, Milliken as a lefty at Fenway Park, I'm sorry, I don't think he's a 20 home run guy.
Yeah, I think it's fair to question at Fenway whether he get there, but he has shown the ability to really shoot the ball the other way. That is something that has stuck out about him.
So is he Todd Walker?
I think defensively he's going to give you more
I don't
than
like
that.
that he even considered that, Jimmy.
No,
that's a scary thing.
I think if you're just looking for a player comp, I think it's a more offensive version of Brandon Crawford. I think that's really where I typically land on him. It's a good player. If you hit 270 in this league and you pop somewhere between 15 to 20 homers and you're above average in that way, you're going to go steal 15 bags a year. I think there's value in that. I just don't see him as a superstar guy. Not Gunnar Henderson, not Bobby Witt Jr.
Todd Walker was the 8th pick in the draft. He averaged 13 home runs per season. Jay Stu nails another one.
I don't feel good about that. Real quick, Stu, can we get Bob Nightingale on some pitchers who might be available? I want to get Milliken's quick thought on this.
I think they'll go get their starter for sure. I don't think they're going to surrender. The fan base would go ballistic. And they surrender, zero chance of Alex Cora coming back if they do that. I think they'll get, try to get a guy like if he's available, a Jameson Taillon from the Cubs, or certainly Eric Fetty's available from the Chicago White Sox. But I think they're going to get some reinforcements here. They got a tough schedule here coming out of the break. I think 7 games are against the Yankees, Dodgers, and Seattle. But no, I see them doing something and trying to get in. And they're one of the biggest surprises in baseball right now.
Bob Nightingale says the Red Sox are going to add. He thinks they're going to add. He names Taillon and Eric Fetty. Give me 30 seconds on those guys, and whether you like it or you don't like it.
Yeah,
both pitchers.
Yeah, the Jameson Taillon one, it sticks out to me in a specific way. In the Cubs, still reportedly, Patrick Mooney said the other day, they're going to wait to see how they come out of the All-Star break. But with Cody Bellinger going down, I don't have much faith in them going anywhere this year. Taillon, he's making $18 million this year.
Breslo connection, too.
Yep, $18 million the next 2 years. Craig Breslo was the one who actually flew to him and made the pitch for him to go to Chicago, and that deal came together very quickly.
3.10 ERA this year. He's pitched well.
Yes, and under the hood, it's like a 3.80 FIP. Eats innings. Obviously health has always been a little up and down for him, but 154 innings last year, 177 the year before. That feels like someone you can kind of lean on and put in your rotation for the next couple of years. Eric Fetty, ERA is actually below 3, FIP's around 3.5, $7.5 million this year, $7.5 million next year. Came over from overseas this past year, but another guy I think you plug into the middle of that rotation and you don't have to think much about. But I think with Taillon and the money he's making, there is a little bit more of balancing financials there.
Fetty came over from the KBO. He's got a career 5 ERA, 2.99 this year with the White Sox. Out on that guy.
Why? He's done the job this year. He kind of reinvented himself.
You bring him somewhere where it matters. He's going to morph back into the bum he was before. In on Taillon, out on Fetty. I say Fed. I say Fed to that. Quick update from Majori. We got to get into this Red Sox-Dodgers series. Milliken's here. It's McCarthy in for Maz on the Baseball Hour.
Sports Hub. of.
Baseball Hour, McCarthy, Milliken, the majority here, Stu. Red Sox-Dodgers this weekend. It's time for the Between the Limes Baseball Report, brought to you by Corona, the official cerveza of Major League Baseball, with what to watch out for during this weekend's game, or games. Enjoy the finer life of sports with Corona. Must be 21 plus. Relax responsibly. Corona Extra Beer, imported by Crown Imports, Chicago, Illinois. What to watch for? Red Sox-Dodgers, baby. Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman.
Well, we're not going to get Mookie.
That's right.
No
Of course
Mookie
you're not
in
gonna
this
get-
series.
Of course you're not
which is
gonna get
sad.
Mookie.
I
He's
wish we
hurt.
could have saw him for a
He's
little
hurt.
bit.
He's hurt. Duh, McCarthy. Broke his hand.
Smashed.
Rough. Wild pitch. Alex Cora looking over at the Dodgers dugout, longingly at that Dodger blue, thinking about what next year is going to be like when the Dodgers fall short again and Dave Roberts gets fired and Cora goes and takes over that team like the 2017 and 2018 Red Sox. Cora's a perfect fit for that Dodgers team. This is a fun series, Milliken. It is a fun series if you like baseball.
And it's a little bit of a weird series. I think, when we do hype up, the Dodgers and whatever they may be, you probably feel like you're running into like this crazy line of, superstars in their rotation. And really, that's not the case. They've dealt with a ton of injuries this year. Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who I think we were both drooling over forever.
Yep.
He's on the IL. Tyler Glasnow recently on the IL. Walker Buehler's out trying to rediscover himself as a pitcher right now. Clayton Kershaw's on his rehab assignment coming back. Emmett Sheehan out for the year. Dustin May out for the year. Tony Gonsolin out for the year. So this is a very depleted Dodgers rotation, and that's what they're going to be kind of targeting at the trade deadline here. But we're going to see old friend James Paxton at the end of the series. You got something called Justin Robleski in the second game, and then Gavin Stone, who got his first big league win against you last year. But I do think this is another opportunity where why can't the Red Sox come in here against these arms and do some damage? None of these three arms should intimidate you in a major way.
Jimmy Stewart had an opening take today on Felger and Maz about the Dodgers series and Alex Cora and Mookie Betts and how that was ultimately the dividing line for the Red Sox, which, by the way, every time the Red Sox seat the Dodgers every year for the next 8 years or whatever it's going to be for the remainder of Mookie's contract out there, this is going to be the topic, whether he's playing or not, because it's just a reminder of the Red Sox making that decision, which is one of the defining decisions in recent history. Jimmy, you said that this is the most defining move the Red Sox have made in 100 years?
100 years. This is the worst trade that the Red Sox have made since Babe Ruth. And it was all because of Sam Kennedy, and I believe talking John Henry into firing Dave Dombrowski. And the fact that they didn't get a star player back for Mookie Betts, the fact that Verdugo flamed out, Jeter Downs is in the AAA system of the Yankees, Connor Wong should have been an all-star this year, but they're not superstar sizzle players like trading Betts and Price, and you had to trade Mookie Betts to get rid of David Price, whose time was up here. But what the Red Sox also traded away in an MVP player and a superstar player is they traded one of their kids. And we as Red Sox fans, because I am a Red Sox fan despite my negative attitude at times towards them, we watched Mookie Betts grow up. We watched him win an MVP. We watched him win a World Series. He was ours. And you, as the Red Sox, would not commit to him and keep our kids in the family. Now, whether he wanted to be here or not, that's a debatable point. But you lowballed him on money. And then it went from Mookie Betts is gone and traded to now Xander Bogaerts is leaving you, to other players who we have connections to leaving us because of the business reason. And if you're running the baseball team because of business, then you suck. And I despise you, because baseball and sports are supposed to bring people together for a common goal, and that's a championship. That's to win games, to come together, to root and cheer for the same things. And what the Red Sox are doing now is they're running it like a business because they want to put property behind the Green Monster and they want to build this hotel and all, and that's their right. But if you're stewards of a sports franchise, your responsibility is to try and win every season and to bring people together, not divide people, not to trade family members away. That's my belief in sports.
So let me ask you this, Stu. Marcelo Mayer, Roman Anthony, Kyle Teal. the hope is that they will become your children and a member of your family forever. Does that make you a little bit more hesitant to trade those guys away?
It doesn't, because they haven't cracked the major league roster yet. And so, like, when your kid reaches first grade, that's when you're like, okay, let's see what we have here. Let's see what our kid's personality really is.
Yeah.
I think it takes away from the young core at the big league level, too, though. And I think that's why some people may be a little hesitant to invest in this Red Sox team, just from a fan base standpoint. But what Jarren Duran's become as a leader, kind of evolving to this guy, he kind of represents like what you want as a sports fan, a guy who failed, a guy who goes through struggles off the field and is open about them, but keeps fighting again and again and again. And all of a sudden, not only does he become one of the best players in baseball, but he's a leader in the clubhouse that Alex Cora, one of the most respected managers in baseball, tells his twins, tells every guy in that clubhouse, be like him. Like, those are the guys that I kind of look at, and it makes me wonder to some degree. Like, I'm worried. I'm scared. What are these guys going to be here long term if the Red Sox do operate in a certain way? But there's a lot of guys that fit into that, right? So does Tanner Houck. Tanner Houck might be your first homegrown, front of the rotation starter since John Lester here. Like, you have some of these guys already in the big leagues. Cutter Crawford, let's see if he keeps developing. The guy's rocking a 3.04 ERA, hasn't given up a run in 15 straight innings. Like, there's plenty of guys to connect with. Ceddanne Rafaela,
yes,
who I think is so fascinating, just the
too.
Rookie of the Year conversation, but how the fan base responds to him. And I think part of it is the Mookie thing, where and they're different players. I do not fall into that category that's going to make that comp again and again. But when you see the similar mechanics, and when he smokes a ball or makes that ridiculous play in the outfield, and just it's pure athleticism, you see this fan base rally around him in a way that you haven't seen them rally around someone since Mookie.
So, yeah.
Who called him a winning player this week?
I did.
It's a
Which
good take.
Felger was like, what does that mean? Like, well, what it means is no matter where you put him, he can help you win a baseball game in a different way every single night. He's not the world's best hitter, but he's got some pop, right? So it's not going to be every game that he's going to hit a home run to help you win the game, but he might end up on base. Probably not going to walk his way there, but he might end up on base, and he can steal a bag from the 9 spot. You can put him at short. You can put him at second. You can put him at center field, and he can give you Gold Glove quality defense at all 3 of those positions. I haven't quite seen it at second base because they haven't played him there, but you could put him there.
He's too good for that.
He is too good to play second base. I agree. Like shortstop, center field, no matter where you put him on a given day, he can make a play in the field or at the plate, and it's mostly in the field, to help you win. And it might be a little thing. It might be a little thing of, him picking a bad throw at second base, or, him throwing out a runner at third against the Royals at the end of that game because he didn't try to throw out the guy at the plate. He went to third base because he was heads up and he knew where the play was. He knew that the run at the plate didn't matter. The tying run at third base, that was the one that mattered.
Or
he's a winning baseball player.
He's kind of like Whit Merrifield in his prime.
He's a better defender, but
not the same hitter as Whit.
Okay, but the versatility that Merrifield brought, like if he were on a good team, he could have helped that team win because he was fast and he could play all over the field, right? I mean, Rafael is fast. He's a way better defender. He's not the hitter that Merrifield was in his prime. But I hear what you're saying on that, Stu. It's like Rafaela, you could kind of put anywhere in the field and he'd help you find a way to win, which is valuable because, if you're, trying to build a roster moving forward, well, one year he could be your center fielder and the next year he could be your shortstop. Or if somebody gets hurt, you've got a surplus in the outfield, but you're thin in the infield. Well, all of a sudden, Rafael is going to play second base or shortstop. You know what I mean? Like, let's say Story comes back next year and, God forbid, shockingly is good and can play baseball again, which, by the way, is not
McCarthy's worst nightmare.
Which is not going to happen. He's not going to happen because he's not a good baseball player and he can't stay healthy. But let's say you can't figure it out at second base. You could put Rafael at second base. He could help you win there because you're loaded in the outfield at this point. Winning baseball player. Will you help that guy out? Will you get a right-handed hitter to go in that lineup and a pitcher to help that guy out?
Not a chance. You cost too much money.
You prick, Stu. You prick.
I will add, and it's just one of the weird stats about him this year, but 52 RBIs when you're basically in the 9th hole.
He has 52 RBIs?
He leads all rookies in RBIs. Like, what a weird stat. And it has been an up-and-down offensive year. He's gotten better with May to June to July, but what a weird stat. But I think it's kind of the thing with Ceddanne Rafaela. You need him to put the ball in play in a spot where you need to push a run across. He seemingly finds a way. And guess what? Next at bat, he's probably going to strike out with a pitch at his eyes. And you're like, oh, that was one of the worst at bats I've seen. But Alex Cora said it 2 weeks ago. He went from the worst at bat in the big leagues to start the year. He's now becoming one of the tougher ones.
Did Milliken just reference runs batted in?
I did. It's a weird
That's
thing.
That's an old school stat. I thought the nerds hated runs batted in.
Yeah, that's that. Are you falling out of the nerdness?
I'm not, but
he wanted to trade. He said he would trade Mayer, and now he's referenced RBIs.
I don't want to trade Mayer, but if you're making me get difficult and have to pick someone, I can make a hard decision. But I will say, as someone who was very cautious with Ceddanne Rafaela as a prospect, very cautious about what he was going to be as a hitter in the big leagues, I feel like he transcends a lot of analytics in a lot of ways, just watching him on a nightly basis.
Sorry, Milliken, we kind of have to do this.
Suspended. I deserve it. I've been suspended now on the Sports Hub once again.
Have to suspend you, sorry.
Too much Dayquil and NyQuil going to his head.
Milliken's going to end up in the nerd landfill after this. He's going to trade Marcelo Mayer, and Ceddanne Rafaela has RBI. What has happened? We finally corrupted him. We got him back to the good side. We continue next. Somebody needs to be recognized here on the Baseball Hour. We'll do that next.
This is the Baseball Hour with Tony Maz. Sox baseball banter. The Baseball Hour with Tony Maz on the Sports Hub.
We normally don't get little pieces of Red Sox news at 6:56 in the Baseball Hour. Oh, they're out west. That's why it explains it. Chris Cotillo, a couple minutes ago. McCarthy, Milliken, in for Maz tonight. Stu's here, Majori. Chris Cotillo tweeting this out.
This is breaking sports news.
All about Valvoline Instant Oil Change.
On 98.5, the Sports Hub.
Hit the button, ask questions later. No, this is kind of compelling. Trevor Story here in the Red Sox clubhouse and just cracked the door open for a return this season. Unsure if it's realistic, but it's now a goal. Trevor Story says, don't rule me out to return in 2024.
To Worcester? He loved Worcester.
He did love Worcester.
He wanted to stay for all 20.
I mean, who wouldn't?
Did he not
Worcester?
prove everybody right when he came back and he couldn't hit anything?
Well, that doesn't have anything to do with the fact that he's hurt. It has everything to do with the fact that Trevor Story hasn't hit a baseball in 5 years.
He looked better than that, at least in the nice 10-game span we had before he got hurt this year.
This is bad. Keep Story away from this thing. I can't have, yes, he's a good fielder, but you can't have Trevor Story coming back trying to figure out how to hit a breaking ball when this team's trying to make the playoffs. Trevor Story would be a detriment to this team.
I agree. You're right. You're right, Matt.
I'll also add for where Trevor Story's at and the fact that you still have him under contract, for multiple years at this point. Him trying to force himself, we're not talking about someone who's young anymore. He's 31 years old right now. Guy who relies on his athleticism to be the kind of player he needs to be. If you still hope he could grab 15 bags at 32 next season, you don't need to be rushing anything like that. He had a very traumatic injury. Kick the can to next year and you hope for the best. It just shouldn't be. But it's nice for him to have the goal. Like, I'm not going to hate on him for that. But, man, between the rehab and everything that would have to go into it, that seems like the wrong move with the shoulder
Portland
injury.
is the perfect place for him.
Yep, exactly. Once Meyer
play second base with Meyer, learn how to do the double play thing.
Well, Meyer will be promoted so he can go play
and
in
trade
Portland.
them both somewhere else.
Because he wants to be a shortstop, right? No, bad news. Bad news on Trevor Story. Wants to come back. Keep him away.
Well, not bad news.
Good news. We're running out of time.
It's terrible news.
We're running out of time. I reject your take because we need to do 60 seconds on Joe Castig going into the Hall of Fame. Jimmy, I know you worked with Castig back in your EEI days. We're all very happy for Joe Castig. It's well deserved.
I am very happy for Joe. He was a delight to work with. He had some Bob Uecker from Major League moments where the Red Sox wouldn't be playing so great, and he'd cover the mic and be like, oh, they're bleepy again. But Joe, tremendous voice, legend. Can you believe it? Like, historical, great calls, always well prepared, always good to the people around him, brings people up. He's one of the good people in the broadcast business. So I'm happy that he's going to the Hall of Fame.
Man, it's like comfort food. It's like Joe on a summer night. That is just like, That's how it should be. Congratulations to Joe Castig.
And it's a dying breed. That's simply all I'll put on there. You won't be able to appreciate those kind of things, especially radio and baseball. But in this market, and what Castig has been able to do over the years, his history, how many years you have, all that stuff. This golden era Red Sox baseball, only for so long will you be able to cling on to it in any way. He's still the portal into that. You want to cherish that for as long as you possibly can.
And especially where you have all these Syracuse jackasses taking the good jobs.
Some Syracuse bot's going to come in and take it.
Like a Syracuse guy taking a job from Don Orsillo.
Yeah, you're right. He is a Syracuse guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds it, doesn't it?
I never liked
boring, dry. Send him back to the radio. Especially while it's dying.
I never like to keep Stu long, but
that's my fault. I'm ranting against Dave O'Brien. By the way, Dave O'Brien's neighbor, send this tape to Dave O'Brien or just hand it to him. Then call the show next week.
So good, Jim.
Ed in Chelmsford.
Will you give me 15 seconds? I spent the last week here with Felger and Maz. Jimmy Stewart and Kevin Majori work harder than just about anybody in this business. These guys, trust me, you see these guys work day in and day out, and you do 5 days with them. You know it already, but when you see it every day, it really is eye-opening. These guys are the best, the absolute best. And Milliken, you're a producer. I know, you recognize that these guys are the best. Give them a round of applause.
Do you want me to clap?
Sure, clap for them.
Better people than me, better producers than me. I'll clap here right now about it.
I won't let you respond, Stu. I'm going to just go. Sean Silver's up next. See ya.